from the book of Numbers. Every once in a while, a lot of times when thoughts come to me, they just kind of come to me, as I'm reading, or just out of the blue, a thought will come to me, or God will speak to me about a subject, or He will, whatever, just different ways. But as I was reading the other night, this one hit me like a ton of bricks. Very unusual. It just hit me. I mean, it just kind of slammed me and burst me immediately into tears. I don't know if I ever had that happen before. It was just hit me. It was just amazing to me. And maybe it's because of where I'm at and what God is doing and has been doing. But anyway, I'm going to share this with you from the book of Numbers. And Numbers chapter 14. So I'm going to just preface this by saying that we probably all know the story of the children of Israel when God brought them out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And He brought them to the edge of the promised land. And I've often wondered why God did this. I don't know. God definitely had a reason. But He told Moses to choose 12 men, one out of every tribe, and to go spy out the land of Canaan that they were about to go enter into, or they thought they were. And so they did. And those men spent 40 days over there searching the land before they came back. And now each of these men was not just an anybody, they were a leader in their tribe. They were an elder, if you will, somebody kind of higher up. And so they were all people who had witnessed and who had experienced the miracles that God did. Every one of them saw the same miracles. They all saw God perform the plagues on Egypt. They all saw God part the Red Sea. They all saw God send manna from heaven, which He did every single day except the Sabbath day. They all saw the same things. So they went in and they searched the land, and they came back after 40 days. And in chapter, actually, I said 14. I'm actually going to start in 13, chapter 13, verse 26. And they went and came so after they got back, they went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel unto the wilderness of Paran to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, We came unto the land whither thou sentest us, and surely it floweth with milk and honey. And this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. But the men that went up with him said, We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, The land through which we have gone to search it is a land which eateth up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of a great stature. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said unto them, Would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God we had died in this wilderness? So we see here where discouragement breeds discouragement. Doubt breeds doubt. And here we have a prime example of that very thing. But what I want to focus on today is how two people out of, by some estimates, the children of Israel, that we know that there were at least 600,000 men that came out of Egypt. The Bible tells us that, besides the children and the women also, I believe. So some estimates believe that there were up to 3 million people that came out of Egypt. It could be anywhere from, somewhere, it could be anywhere from, 150,000, 1.5 million to 3 million, whatever. But at any rate, there was a whole lot of people. Two people saw something different. And I'm leaving Moses out of this because Moses is not mentioned here. He was the leader and he knew what God could do. So I'm not mentioning him, but Caleb and Joshua, two people saw something different than everybody else. Everybody else. The whole, out of millions of people, two people saw something different out of everybody. And what did they see? They were looking through eyes of faith. For some reason, they looked at the promise, they looked at what God had done. They remembered the miracles. They saw the plagues. They remembered the plagues, what God did. They remembered the waters of the Red Sea parting. They remembered the manna from heaven. They remembered these things, and they said, our God is able. Why only two people? What about the rest? Why did they see the negative? They saw the negative. They saw reason. And that's what I want to talk a little about this morning. If we are ever going to believe, to see miracles in our lives, if we're ever going to have healings and wonder-working things happen, and we're going to see these things, we have to let go of reason and we have to have faith. Because reason says, there's no way you little feeble people who can't even fight and who aren't trained to fight, you were slaves in Egypt, you don't even have the equipment to fight. Reason says there's no way you can go in and take this land. That's what reason says. Reason says that there's giants there and there's cities there with these great big walls, and reason says it can't be done. But faith says it can be done. You see, faith sees things differently. So the difference between us having a victorious life or an average life is faith. It's faith. It's simple. It's not complicated. It's not hard. We don't have to be great. We don't have to be strong. We don't have to be giants. We don't have to be mighty warriors, because our God is the mighty warrior. He is the one with the power. He is the one who sent the plagues. He is the one who parted the waters of the Red Sea. He's the one who sent the manna every day. We're nothing. All we are is recipients of His goodness. When we release the faith, when we simply say, I believe you, God, how many of us in our lives can look back and we see so many things that God has done in our lives? And we see answers to prayer, and we see victories that we can look back and we can remember that God did this and God did that. It wasn't us. We knew it wasn't us. We knew we didn't have the power. We knew it wasn't in our ability, but our God did it. So why can't we look at that and say, God, I know that whatever's in front of me, you have got it under control. I know that this mountain that seems impossible is nothing with you. I know that these giants over there, they're nothing with you. I may look like a grasshopper in their sight, but that's okay because they're nothing with you. You are able. Our God is able. All He needs is somebody who will believe in Him. So my prayer and my hope is that God would help us, that He would raise up Caleb's and Joshua's who would see the world through a different lens than everybody else. That they would see the gospel through a different lens than everybody else. That they would see the power of God. And I know I keep mentioning this, I'm going to mention it again. That when a pandemic so-called comes along, that people will see the power of God instead of a pandemic. That people will see God's ability. That people will see what God can do, that God is able. That people can see the promises of God instead of the negative things that the world is saying. That's what my hope and my prayer is, that God will raise up Caleb's and Joshua's, that in spite of millions of other people, even if you're alone, if there's one or there's two, that you will say, I believe God. I believe God. When reason tells me everything else, all the reasons why it can't be, it shouldn't be, and it won't be, I believe God. When I can't walk very good, when reason tells me I can't do this, when reason tells me I can't do this, faith reaches higher. Faith goes beyond reason. And faith says it can and it will because I believe God. Yeah. Because there is a God who created this world. And I'm afraid that in these last decades that the church, and there again, every time I say church, I'm not picking on any one church. I'm general, speaking in generalities. I'm afraid that the church has become weak and powerless and cowardly and unbelieving. God help us. Because all we have to do is look at the Word of God and say, this is what my God can do. I don't know about your God. He might be weak, but mine is strong. Mine can part the waters of the Red Sea. Mine can send manna every day. My God can shut the lions' mouths. My God can quench the violence of the fire. My God can do anything. And I want you to know my God. Is your God weak? Have you been living defeated? I want to introduce you to my God who's powerful. He's powerful. He can do anything. There's not a thing He cannot do today. All He needs is Caleb's and Joshua's. You see, Caleb and Joshua, they knew. They saw everything everybody else did. They saw the giants. They saw the walled cities. They saw that they were tiny compared to those giants. They saw all that. But more importantly, they saw what God could do. They looked beyond reason and they said, my God is able to bring us into this land. Come on, people, they said. Come on, people. It said Caleb stilled the people. People, hush, stop. Stop with the crying. Stop with the doubting. Let me tell you something. Our God is able. Don't you remember? Don't you remember when we came up against the Red Sea? People, don't you remember how we walked? The walls, the water was a wall on either side of us. It was dry land under people. You forgot already? Come on. Come on. Stop looking at the natural. Start looking at God. Start looking at His ability. Stop looking at your ability. Because I want to tell you, your ability and my ability is nothing. I'll say that again. It's nothing. Our ability is nothing. But God can move mountains. God can part Red Seas. God can bring down walled cities. God can make the walls of Jericho fall down in your life and in my life. So God, I believe today, is raising up Caleb's and Joshua's. I believe He is, right? I believe right here in this place. That God is raising up Caleb's and Joshua's who will say, no matter what anyone else says, who will say, I believe my God. When God promises it, I believe it. I will stand on it. And I want to tell you today, God has promised healing for your body. He has promised it. Jesus suffered that you might be healed. Body, soul, mind, spirit, the whole thing. He suffered. With His stripes ye were healed. The price has already been paid. That's a promise. He did that for you and He did that for me. That is our right as children of God. That's our birthright. We can claim that. We can say, okay, God, you paid the price. You gave that to me. I'm going to stand on it. I'm going to claim it. Thank you. When other troubles come into our life, whatever they might be, we can stand on the promises of God. We can say, God, I'm your child. And that makes me special. It does. As children of God, you are special. You're not like the world. It's kind of like the children of Israel. God called the children of Israel out and He said, be separate. You're separate from every other nation. That's you, children. You are separate. You're different. You are peculiar. You are called out. You are mine. And when we become children of God, that's the way we are. We are not like the world. We are not of the world. We are not the world. We are called out. We are called out. And we are called to be different. And we're called to take a stand. And we're called to have faith. And we're called to trust God no matter what may happen in our lives. No matter what circumstances there may be around us. We are called to be children of God. And I do want to say this. I'm not pounding on anybody whose faith might be weak. And let me tell you why. Because I have been there. Because I know what it is to lose faith. I know what it is to not know if God cared or not. I've been there. But I want to encourage you that God does care. I found out for myself. God does care. He does know. He does have a plan. He is able. And no matter what you may be going through, no matter how low you may be, or your faith may be, or how discouraged you may be, God loves you just the same, and He's working on you. He will build your faith right back up. He will not only build it back up, He will make it stronger than it was before because of what you have been through. And so I want to encourage you. As I said, I'm not trying to discourage anybody who might have a little weak faith. I want to encourage you that our God is able. He's able this very day. So today, I want to ask, are you willing to be a Caleb and a Joshua? Are you willing? It's lonely. It's lonely. Think about that. 2 people out of the whole congregation of the children of Israel and Moses. How lonely that must have been. How they must have felt. How ridiculed they were. I mean, the people even talked about stoning them. That's where they were. They said, stone those guys. They're crazy. We can't take that land. Come on, people, how does that make you feel? They even talked about stoning them. So what are they going to say about us? What are they going to say about us? When we choose to trust God, we're going to look like idiots sometimes. We're going to look like fools sometimes to the world and even to other Christians. But thank God, doesn't matter. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that hinder you. You just keep your faith in God. And I want to tell you, miracles will happen. Victories will happen in your life. Victories will happen in my life. Victories will happen right here. Thank God for what He can do. I tell you, I find this so encouraging. I'm so glad that there were people. I'm so glad we have examples like this in the Word of God. I'm glad for this example. I'm glad there were at least 2 people that day who stood up and said, we can do this because of God. And folks, that's where we are today. We're in a dark world. But there's a few of us who are standing up and who are saying, our God is able. Our God is bigger.
Yeah.
Our God is bigger. Well, you want to meet my God? Can I introduce you? Can I tell you about my God? Can I tell you about His power? Can I tell you about His ability? That's what we want to do. We want to tell the world, no matter how big of fools we may look like, we want to tell the world what God can do. So we're going to have a time of prayer as we always do.